My parents kicked me out on my 18th birthday, then told everyone they did it because I was drug addict with issues. They didn't know I had every receipt, photo, and email needed for the perfect revenge. My entire childhood can be summed up in 3 words, maybe next year. You see, my parents didn't give an F about me or my birthdays. My older sister Haley got themed birthday parties with custom inflatable castles, magicians, catered food, everything. Her sweet 16 cost more than most weddings, and my younger brother Ryan got the same treatment. But my parents avoided everything about me like the plague. I pretended like I didn't care, but deep down I did. And by the time I was 12, I stopped mentioning my birthday altogether. Something inside me just hoped that my 18th birthday would be different. Fast forward 6 years later, I woke up on the morning of my 18th birthday to party sounds. When I ran downstairs, I saw 50 guests all surrounding a 3-tier custom birthday cake with a banner. Except the banner read, "Happy 3rd birthday, Princess Bella." I froze. My name is Jordan. Bella is the dog's name. I stood there frozen while everyone sang to the dog. When the song ended, I whispered, "It's my birthday too." The room went silent. My mom's face twisted. "Are you seriously jealous of a dog on her special day?" I started crying. 18 years of being invisible just poured out. That's when my parents handed me a birthday gift. They kicked me out of their home. I had nowhere to go. Practically all of my family lived in Ireland. There was only one who lived in New York too. Uncle Dennis. We barely talked, but I figured sleeping at his place was better than the streets. I showed up at his door with a backpack, trying not to cry. He opened it, and his face was stone cold. "Let me guess, you got yourself into trouble and now you need somewhere to crash." His voice was sharp. I just nodded, too tired to explain. "You can take the basement. Don't touch anything, don't make noise, and this better be temporary." For 2 weeks, I lived like a ghost, made sure to tiptoe everywhere, and always cleaned up after myself. And other than reminding me of the rules, he barely spoke to me. Set strict rules, no visitors. I thought he hated me just like everyone else. Maybe my parents were right about him being difficult, I thought to myself. I kept my head down, followed every rule, and cried myself to sleep, wondering why nobody wanted me around. Then one night, I couldn't take it anymore. He asked about my day, and I completely broke down and told him everything. The favoritism, the emotional neglect, the getting kicked out. As soon as I was done talking, I was filled with fear for how he'd respond. And that's when Uncle Dennis said something that changed everything. "They told me you were on Doctorgs, said you'd been stealing from them and got violent when they tried to help." My blood went cold. He continued, "They called me 3 weeks ago. Said if you showed up here, I needed to be firm and watch for signs of withdrawal. They said you'd lie about why you left." He pulled out his phone, showing me texts from my mother, detailed lies about my addiction and behavioral issues. "That's why I've been so harsh. I thought I was helping you get clean." We sat in silence before he spoke again. "But an addict doesn't quietly follow the rules for 2 weeks, doesn't cry themselves to sleep, doesn't flinch when I raise my voice." That's when Uncle Dennis did something unexpected. He went to his closet and pulled out a box. Inside were birthday cards, 18 of them, all addressed to me. "Your mom told me you didn't celebrate birthdays, said you had trauma around them and the family agreed not to mention it. I bought these anyway, just in case." Each card had a $50 bill inside. He'd been saving for my birthdays, believing I was too damaged to celebrate them. The anger hit me like a truck. They didn't just ignore my birthdays, they made the whole family think I couldn't handle celebrations. He promised I would be safe with him and held me while I cried myself to sleep. I didn't know it at the time, but Uncle Dennis was about to make my parents pay. My life was about to change forever. The next morning, Uncle Dennis knocked on my door earlier than usual. He carried a notebook and a steaming mug of coffee, setting both on the nightstand before sitting at the edge of my bed. "We need to document everything while it's fresh," he said, his voice steady but determined. "Every birthday they ignored, every excuse they made, every single moment they made you feel invisible." I sat up, rubbing my eyes. The idea of reliving 18 years of neglect made my stomach turn, but Dennis was already opening the notebook, clicking his pen with purpose. We spent the next 4 hours going through year by year. I started with my 5th birthday when they forgot entirely because Haley had a dance recital. Then my 8th when they promised a party, but took Ryan to an amusement park instead. By the time I reached my 13th birthday, when I found my parents eating my birthday cake in the kitchen without me, Dennis's knuckles were white from gripping the pen. "They told you what?" he asked when I mentioned my 15th birthday. I repeated how my mother said birthday parties were for children who contributed to the family. Dennis wrote faster, his handwriting becoming sharp, angry strokes across the page. When I finished, he had filled 23 pages with detailed notes, timestamps, and specific quotes I remembered. Dennis disappeared into his study and returned with 3 photo albums. "I've been keeping these since you kids were born," he said, spreading them across the coffee table. "Your parents used to email me pictures from every family event." We flipped through the pages together, and that's when I noticed the pattern. In the earliest photos, I appeared front and center with my siblings, but as the years progressed, I gradually moved to the edges of frames. By age 10, I was either in the background or cropped out entirely. "Look at this one." Dennis pointed to a Christmas photo from 5 years ago. "I have the original on my computer. They sent it to the whole family." He pulled up the file on his laptop. In the original, I stood beside the tree. In the album version, I'd been edited out completely. My phone buzzed. Mom calling. Dennis grabbed it before I could decline. "Put it on speaker," he said. "I want to hear this." "Sweetie," my mother's voice filled the room, syrupy sweet. "We need you to come home. You overreacted, and we just want to talk." "I'm not coming back," I managed to say. Her tone shifted instantly. "You need to come back before people start asking questions. The neighbors are already wondering where you you are. Let them wonder, Dennis said loudly enough for her to hear. Dennis, you keep out of this. This is between us and our daughter. The daughter you kicked out on her birthday? His voice was ice. The line went dead. An hour later, Haley showed up at Dennis's door. I watched from the window as she adjusted her designer purse and checked her reflection in her phone screen. Dennis answered, keeping the chain on. I'm here for my sister, Haley announced. Our parents sent me to bring her home. She is home, Dennis replied. Haley pushed past him when he opened the door fully. She found me in the living room and immediately launched into her speech. Look, I get it. You're upset about the dog thing, but you're being dramatic. Just come home and— Where would I sleep? I interrupted. Her face flushed. What do you mean? My room. Where is it? Haley shifted uncomfortably. Well, Mom needed more closet space, so they expanded my walk-in. But we can figure something. When did they do this? Like 3 weeks ago? She wouldn't meet my eyes. They donated your stuff to Goodwill, said you wouldn't need it anymore. The room spun. They'd planned this. They'd cleared out my existence before even kicking me out. Dennis stepped between us. I think you should leave. After Haley left, I remembered my college savings. Grandma had set up accounts for all 3 grandchildren when we were born. I logged into my banking app with shaking hands. The account that should have held 18 years of birthday and Christmas deposits was empty. The transaction history showed a transfer to my parents' account dated 3 days before Bella's party. Dennis immediately called his mother in Ireland. I could hear her voice through the phone, confused at first, then increasingly angry as Dennis explained. When he put her on speaker, her words made my blood run cold. They told us she joined a cult, my grandmother said. Said that's why she missed the last 5 family video calls. They said she dropped out of school and ran off with some religious group. My hands shook as I created a new social media account under a fake name. I needed to see what my family had been posting. My mother's page was full of family photos, hundreds from birthdays, vacations, holidays. In every single one from the past 8 years, I'd been edited out. But Dennis had already pulled up his computer, showing me the original versions he'd saved from old emails. I kept everything, he said. Never knew why, but something felt off about how they talked about you. 3 days later, Ryan texted asking to meet at a coffee shop downtown. I almost didn't go, but Dennis encouraged me. You need to hear what he has to say. Ryan looked nervous, constantly checking over his shoulder as he slid into the booth across from me. They've been planning this for months, he said without preamble. Haley's boyfriend lost his apartment, and Mom figured you'd be the easiest to kick out. Said you never fight back anyway. Why are you telling me this? He stared at his coffee. Because it's wrong, and because— he paused. Because I heard Mom tell Dad that once you were gone, they could tell everyone you were troubled. Mental health issues. Make it seem like your choice. That evening, my phone rang. My manager from my part-time job at the bookstore. I'm sorry, she said, but your parents called. They said you're mentally unstable and dangerous. Corporate wants me to suspend you pending an investigation. What? I've worked there for 2 years without a single complaint. I know, but they said you threatened them. They're demanding we terminate you for safety reasons. Dennis was already grabbing his car keys. We're going to the police station now. The officer who took our report looked tired until Dennis showed him the documentation, the empty bank account, the false claims to my employer, the pattern of lies. This isn't the first time someone from your family has filed a complaint, the officer said carefully. Your parents have a history of making accusations. When we got home, I realized my birth certificate and social security card were missing from my belongings. The next day, when I tried to get replacements, the clerk informed me there was a fraud alert on my identity. Your parents filed it, she said, claiming someone was impersonating their child. That's when Mrs. Walsh reached out. My 10th grade English teacher had seen a vague post I'd made on my new social media account about starting over. Her message was simple. I've been worried about you for years. Can we talk? She arrived at Dennis's house with a thick folder. I've been documenting concerns about your home life since you were 15, she said, spreading papers across the table. You never had lunch money while your siblings bought extra meals. You wore the same clothes for days while they had designer everything. I reported it, but nothing came of it. The next mistake my parents made was posting on the community Facebook page. Please help us find our troubled daughter who needs medical attention, the post read, complete with my school photo. She's confused and refusing necessary treatment. Dennis screenshotted everything. The post was time-stamped the same day as Bella's party, the same day they kicked me out, the same day they were supposedly so concerned about my mental health that they threw a party for the dog. That night, Dennis's friend arrived. Benjamin was a family lawyer who specialized in custody and fraud cases. He reviewed everything, the documentation, the screenshots, the bank records, the false reports. This is systematic abuse, he said, and we can prove it. 2 days later, my parents showed up at Dennis's house with 2 police officers. I watched from the window as my mother dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Our daughter is a runaway, she told them. She's only 17 and needs medical attention. Dennis met them at the door with my ID and the folder of documentation. She's 18, he said calmly, and your history of false reports is well documented. The officers reviewed the papers, exchanged glances, and turned to my parents. Ma'am, filing false reports is a crime. You need to leave. Desperate, my parents tried one last tactic. My father called Dennis the next morning. We'll unfreeze the college funds, he said. Every penny. Just have her sign a statement saying she left voluntarily and won't discuss family matters publicly. She'll think about it, Dennis lied. Instead, I spent the next 3 days compiling everything into a massive online thread. The photos showing my gradual erasure, the birthday cards Dennis had saved, Mrs. Walsh's documentation, screenshots of the lies about my mental health posted while they partied, Ryan's testimony about the premeditated eviction, the theft of my college funds, the fraud alert scheme. Everything. The post exploded within our community. Dozens of people commented with their own observations. Teachers who noticed I never went on field trips my siblings attended. Parents who wondered why I wasn't at award ceremonies. Coaches who remembered my parents never coming to my games, but never missing Haley's or Ryan's. My mother's employer saw the evidence of stolen funds and lying to police. My father's company launched an investigation after seeing proof he'd participated in identity theft. Child Services contacted Dennis that afternoon. A caseworker named Victoria arrived with a thick file and serious expression. Mrs. Walsh submitted her documentation directly to our office, she explained, settling into Dennis's living room. Combined with the community response to your post, we're opening a retroactive investigation. She asked detailed questions about my childhood, taking notes as I described years of being excluded from family activities, denied basic necessities while my siblings received luxuries, and the emotional manipulation that made me believe I deserved less. Dennis provided his photo evidence, showing my systematic removal from family documentation. The bedroom situation is particularly concerning, Victoria said. Converting your living space while you still resided there shows premeditation. We'll need to interview your siblings as well. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from people I'd known throughout school. A girl from my chemistry class remembered how I always made excuses for not having the required calculator, while Haley flaunted her third smartphone upgrade. My former soccer coach sent screenshots of emails where my parents claimed I'd quit the team, when actually they'd refused to pay the fees despite covering Ryan's hockey expenses. Dennis's friend Benjamin worked methodically through the legal implications. The identity theft alone is serious, he explained during our third meeting, but combined with the financial fraud and false police reports, your parents are facing real consequences. He helped me file for a restraining order, documenting each instance of harassment and false reporting. The paperwork felt overwhelming, but Benjamin guided me through each form with patience. We're also filing civil suits, he said. One for the stolen funds, another for defamation given their lies to your employer and extended family, and a third for intentional infliction of emotional distress. The restraining order hearing came quickly. My parents arrived with their own lawyer, my mother wearing pearls, and my father in his best suit. They'd clearly prepared to present themselves as concerned parents dealing with a troubled child, but Benjamin came armed with evidence. He presented the judge with the timeline Dennis and I had created, showing how my bedroom was converted weeks before my birthday. The bank records proved they'd drained my college fund days before kicking me out. The screenshots from the community Facebook page, posted the same day they'd thrown a party for the dog, demolished their claim of concern for my well-being. Your Honor, Benjamin said, this isn't a case of worried parents. This is systematic abuse designed to erase a child from a family while maintaining a public facade of normalcy. My mother tried to speak, but the judge silenced her. I've seen enough. The temporary restraining order is granted. The respondents are ordered to cease all contact with the petitioner and maintain a distance of 500 feet. Outside the courthouse, my parents' lawyer approached Benjamin. They wanted to negotiate. My clients are willing to return the college funds in exchange for dropping the criminal complaints, he offered. Benjamin didn't even blink. The criminal investigation is out of our hands. The police are pursuing charges for the false reports. As for the civil suits, we'll see them in court. The community Facebook page became a battlefield. My mother tried damage control, posting about how mental illness ran in families and how hard they'd tried to help me. But for every post she made, dozens of community members responded with their own observations and screenshots from my thread. The narrative she'd carefully crafted over years crumbled within days. My father's employer placed him on administrative leave pending their investigation. Someone from his company's HR department called Dennis's house, asking to verify the timeline of events. They were particularly interested in his participation in the identity theft, as it violated multiple company policies about ethical conduct. A week later, Ryan texted again. This time, he wanted to meet at Dennis's house. He arrived, looking exhausted, dark circles under his eyes. It's getting bad, he said immediately. They're turning on each other. Mom blames Dad for the fraud alert idea. Dad says Mom pushed too hard with the fake reports. He pulled out his phone, showing me videos he'd secretly recorded. My parents arguing in the kitchen, my mother screaming about how the plan was supposed to be simple, my father shouting back that she'd gotten greedy with the trust funds. In one video, I heard my mother say clearly, we should have just let her fade away like we planned. Making it dramatic was your idea. I'll testify, Ryan said quietly. Whatever you need. This isn't right. The next surprise came from Haley. She showed up at Dennis's door unannounced, but this time her designer confidence was gone. She looked smaller somehow, clutching a manila envelope. Dennis let her in warily. I need to show you something, she said, avoiding my eyes. She opened the envelope, revealing printed emails between our parents dating back 2 years. They discussed strategies for managing the Jordan problem and redistributing resources more efficiently. Where did you get these? Dennis asked. Dad's computer. He forgot I knew his password. She finally looked at me. I knew they treated you differently. I benefited from it, but I didn't know it was this calculated. She left the envelope and fled before I could respond. Reading through the emails that night made me physically sick. They'd discussed my removal like a business transaction, calculating how much they'd save on college expenses and how to redistribute my portion of Grandma's trust. Benjamin used the emails to strengthen our civil case. This shows clear conspiracy to commit fraud, he said. They can't claim it was was a misunderstanding or momentary lapse in judgment. Dennis's mother called from Ireland again, this time with the entire family on speakerphone. They'd seen my post, which cousins had shared across international social media. The anger in their voices was palpable as they realized they'd been lied to for years. "We're changing the trust structure," my grandmother announced. "Your parents are being removed as trustees. Dennis will manage your funds directly." She'd already contacted her lawyer in Dublin. The extended family was united in their disgust at my parents' actions. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years reached out with apologies for believing the lies. Aunts and uncles shared stories of how my parents had always deflected questions about my absence from family calls. My mother made one last desperate attempt at control. She showed up at the bookstore where I'd worked, causing a scene despite the restraining order. Security footage showed her telling customers I was dangerous, that they should be careful around me. She was arrested on the spot for violating the protective order. The arrest made the local news. Local woman arrested for harassment after viral post exposes years of child abuse ran in the online edition. My name was kept private, but anyone following the community Facebook drama knew the story. The article mentioned the ongoing investigations into financial fraud and identity theft. Benjamin prepared me for the civil trial. "They'll try to paint you as ungrateful," he warned. "They'll minimize their actions and maximize any teenage mistakes you made. Stay calm and stick to the facts." We practiced my testimony for hours. Dennis sat through every session, his presence a steady comfort as I rehearsed the painful details of 18 years of neglect. Benjamin had me focus on specific incidents rather than general feelings, building an undeniable pattern of abuse. The settlement conference came before the trial. My parents' assets had been frozen, their legal bills mounting. Their lawyer looked defeated as he presented their offer: full restitution of the stolen funds, plus $50,000 in damages, a public apology, and agreement to permanent no-contact orders. "It's not enough," Benjamin said flatly. "The emotional damage alone is worth more, and we haven't even addressed the defamation or lost wages from her job." The negotiations stretched for hours. My parents sat across the conference table, no longer the powerful figures from my childhood, but diminished, angry people facing the consequences of their choices. My mother wouldn't look at me. My father's jaw remained clenched throughout. Finally, their lawyer returned with a new offer: full restitution, plus $150,000 in damages, public apology in the community newspaper, and agreement to permanent restraining orders. They'd also cover all my legal fees and agree to never contest the trust restructuring. "Take it," Benjamin advised. "We could get more at trial, but this gives you closure without months of litigation." I agreed, wanting to move forward rather than remain trapped in legal battles. The settlement papers were drawn up immediately. We signed them, took the money, and the rest was history.